guys? Welcome to another episode of UnCEALed. I have today with me Ultimate Ace. I've got Ansem571, and I've got Shadow2097 coughing into his mic, which is muted. He's our stream host for tonight. We're going to be talking about the playoffs coming up in Casual Esports Amateur League. We have 6 divisions, guys, 6 divisions this season, which is, of course, the highest we've ever had. So there's a ton of playoff action right around the corner. Matches are already being scheduled. They're going to be played this week for sure. We have some on the board, even some casters signed up. So definitely for those of you who are tuning into the show that have been casting throughout the season or are interested in casting, we're going to be starting to look for those for playoffs because we're going to have a lot of matches that we want to get really hyped up. So without further ado, let's start jumping into some of the divisions here. And I think we will shake things up and start at the top. So let's go to Shadow. Scroll up. We're starting at the top. Attaboy. All right. So, Ace, you want to dive into the Ionian division and what we can expect in some of these playoff matches?
Sure thing. So starting off with the Ionian division, going from seeds 1 through 4, we've got Helix seeded at number 1. Team Tempest and Spaceman Spiff tied for second, but due to seating arrangements, Team Tempest got second, Spaceman Spiff got third, and Washed Up One Tricks going in at fourth. So what's interesting, first off, right off the bat, is if you look at the wins and losses, you have Helix at 8-2. Both Spaceman Spiff and Team Tempest went 6-4, with Washed Up One Tricks going 5-5. So I think one thing definitely that stands out to me is clearly Helix is definitely the number 1 team. They're the team to beat.
Yep.
For sure. I think if we were to go down to, I'll start off, I guess to shake things up a little bit too, I'll start off with probably Washed Up One Tricks and go for the player to look for. Mm-hmm. I think based on just a quick rundown, and I think since me and you are both in this division, I think for me, I think the player to definitely look at right off the bat for me would probably have to be. I'm going to go based on my feelings. I definitely probably got to go with Tuba on this one. Only reason is because when we went up against their team, I think they really showcased that when Tuba was on, he was definitely on. I think you have it to where I think Rixay and Gelati are definitely very staple individuals in their own respective lanes, and they definitely can hold their own on pretty much everybody else or every other individual within the Ionian division. But I think with Tuba, I think Tuba really brings about a high level of play, and he definitely showcases what exactly needs to be done across the board in terms of going from laning phase to when everything needs to be transitioned. He's definitely more than willing to play tanks if need be. So I think for me, I definitely would have to go with Tuba on this one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how I guess each team, because we also played them in a best of 2, and our team kind of got a different look. I mean, obviously I agree with you on Tuba, but one thing I wanted to point out in addition to that is his champion pool commands so much respect. He has his carries. I would say at minimum 2-3 bans are usually dumped at him throughout the 5-game ban phase, but I would say that he's one of those few players in our league that can play both the tanks, whether it be the Ornn, actually, well, just the Ornn because he's like the standalone tank.
Right.
But he also can play the Mordekaiser really well. He plays stuff like Camille and Rumble, which always draws a ban in the first phase. But I think initially, right out of the gate, his champion pool you must respect the champion pool because he can play literally anything to great effect. In our series, interestingly enough, that was Rixie. That was the big player against us. They pulled out their Kog'Maw that had done so much work for them in the past, and we got bent over and spanked. So it's kind of interesting how one team will be able to utilize different carries. And so I think you could probably ask another team and they would say either Gelati or Mayor of Huevos would be the pick to watch. So yeah, this team has a lot of unique strengths from different areas.
And it's interesting too because granted they are the 4th seed. They come in fine, but they do showcase that Tuba or Gelati are not the only individuals that can step up and actually perform when needed to. And something you brought up too was that the fact that they draw in particular bans at certain phases, either during ban phase 1 or ban phase 2, they really force whichever team they're going up against to actually buckle down whatever strategy they are definitely going to go with, but to actually commit to their strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think moving on up, I'll go ahead and go with Spaceman Spiff, which is interesting too. The fact that you are on this team, I think speaking just purely on an unbiased sense, I think I'll give it to you. I think you're definitely the player to look for, only because I think you've proven time and time again that when in doubt, you always need to farm. I think you probably have, if I'm not mistaken, probably the best CS differential per minute out of everybody here. Specifically top lane, mid lane, and AD carry. So I think you definitely command a lot of respect. I know for me personally, when it comes to, you don't necessarily have to take every trade, but you definitely need to take every CS that you can get, only because CS is definitely the for sure way that you're going to get gold. Kills or trying to attempt for a kill is not a guarantee that you're going to get gold. So I think with that respect, I think you also have proven that just because you see us a lot doesn't mean that you're only just a KDA player. You're definitely willing to go out there and actually provide assistance or provide the utility. Instead of just going pure carry, you definitely will play a supportive role and try to support out your teammates when given the chance. So I think from, at least from my experience, playing against you a couple times, not just in this season, but in past seasons and even from different communities, I think for your mid lanes in particular, I think you definitely command a lot of respect. I know you command a lot of respect from our mid laner. And so I think probably in your team, I think I would give it to you.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting you bring up the macro element of CSing. If you look at TJ's, sorry, the Tidsy's CS, he's sitting there not too far behind. And one of the things we've done, since we came into this vision as our combined ranks were pretty solidly the lowest. And so like on paper, just ranks alone, we were expected to get last in this division. And talking to some of the other teams who didn't really know us very well, they expected us to get last too. One of the things that we've really had to buckle down and cram is the macro game, and utilizing, once we get into the mid game, utilizing all three lanes to effectively farm, even if we're not in a 1-3-1, using low times between objectives to make sure we get the CS and prepare for the next dragon or baron or whatever it may be. But yeah, so that's you'll see some of the other guys have decent CS as well. I think Tidsy is just a few off of 7 as well. So trying to utilize macro and lane assignments correctly is something we've worked really hard on.
What I guess something you brought to was the fact that you guys are relatively combined together, probably considered the lowest in terms of team wise, ranking wise, but you guys have proven time and time again that rank doesn't necessarily dictate how well you're going to perform, in the sense that since you guys, I would imagine, have been playing for so long, you guys have already gone through the fundamentals with each other, or you guys tend to know what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. So now that you've already got past that, now you can actually go for more advanced tactics, such as playing if you need to play a 1-3-1, or if you need to play a split pushing comp, or if you need to dictate how you want to rotate out at the 12 minute mark or after the second recall. So I think that is something, an advantage your team probably has, as opposed to other teams who are probably just filling in individuals that are coming left and go, or subbing in for other teams such as Helix or Team Tempest or Washed Up One Tricks. You guys already have a solid foundation of how you guys want to play the game, and therefore you won't necessarily let the meta be dictated by your teammate, by your enemy team, but you guys are going to go ahead and go with whatever you feel most comfortable with.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Who
we playing this week?
Ooh, that's I kind of already know that one. The team that you're going up against is the team that I am on. It is Team Tempest. So for Team Tempest, I guess right off the bat, I am not going to use myself in this. Not a big fan of talking about myself. I'd rather have other individuals talk about me. So I think
that's right.
In my experience, I think since I just came into this team for this season, I guess the player, in my opinion, definitely to look out for. I think I'm gonna have to give it to our jungler, actually. I think our jungler is really, really good. I'm actually very impressed with his mechanics and his way of thinking, and when to how to assess the game. He definitely has showcased a lot of when he wants to go for a gank, or when he does not want to commit to something, or knowing which objective in that time is probably more important. Or for instance, if he feels that a dragon is not contestable, he won't go for it. He won't automatically be the trigger happy individual to just go in and expect his teammates to kind of go in. No, he definitely is a more methodical player, definitely with his champ pull too, and he's definitely willing to pull out tanks need be, and he's definitely willing to go carry if he needs to, which is something that a jungler needs to be able to do, is to be flexible and willing to play whatever his team needs. So I think for my experience, I definitely would have to give it to him, to Hoove.
Yeah.
The whole definitely. But I don't know if you have a different opinion or what you think. I'm throwing it to you.
No, yeah. The point that you brought up at the very end, jungler needing to be flexible, that's something we've struggled with for a while. Lucky Maverick, Patrick is one of my best friends IRL. But and it's not really any secret to teams that have played this, he's not really a ganking jungler. He prefers a
Which is understandable.
Yes, he prefers a farming play style with an emphasis on counter jungling. If the matchup provides an opportunity for him to do that. So even though your laners pose a lot of threats, specific champions we have to worry about, maybe target ban, I think Hove really does for your team hold the keys to the early game, which is kind of where we're most susceptible. We often play scaling compositions that are good at team fight, objective control, stuff like that.
We know that very
yeah,
well.
yeah, and so the chink in the armor of that type of composition really is the early game jungler who is able to set a lane behind that shouldn't on paper go behind. Pick an Elise or a Sejuani or something, make me take cleanse in mid lane, have less lane pressure there. Gank Charmelo when he's too far pushed up on a lane, he should be pushing up. Like that kind of wild card in the early game is something that really puts a thorn in the side of scaling team fight composition. So yeah, I would agree. Hove really, he's the X factor. He holds the keys to the early game for you guys, and if we get behind early, it's usually because of his impact on the map.
Most definitely. And I think one thing I probably will throw into is me personally, and this is just based on the times that I've played with its support, I've been really impressed with Ashe. Her supporting skills have actually been a lot. I would have not assumed or thought she was a gold 1 platform player, support player, because she definitely is not afraid of any bot lane matchup whatsoever, and that's because she's willing to play tanks or engage tanks, and she's willing to play enchanters such as Nami or Soraka. She's definitely willing to put in that work, and I think for me specifically, she definitely has shown that she has helped me a lot, specifically as an AD carry. I would like to think I'm a decent enough AD carry to get by, but with her help in particular, she definitely has made laning phases go a lot more smoothly. And I know after every single match, we actually discuss like, hey, well, what do you think we could have done better? What do you think we should have done between the 5 and 7 minute mark, where we tend to go a little bit more in depth with our own lanes in particular, where we try to figure out, okay, which combination of champions are we willing to throw in, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people now know, is that I do play a lot of mid lane also, so I'm willing to throw in different mages down bot side if I want to. If I feel Talia, for instance. Talia is definitely my favorite mid lane champion. Definitely one of my top 5 favorite champions of all time. I'm willing to put in the work for her. So for me in particular, I think I was a little afraid at first coming into this team, because they all kind of know each other and I'm kind of just a new guy, new person coming in. So they definitely have made this transition, a lot better for me. So enough about talking about Team Tempest. Let's go ahead and go to the number 1 team, which is Helix. Now,
or as their coach calls them, the future back-to-back CEAL Ionia champion.
Well, I mean, we're gonna have to kind of see. We'll see. Well, if anything, I'll give you credit, Foozle. May the best team win between us, and then we'll take on one of us. Will take on Helix, and if you guys win, I'll cheer you guys on.
Likewise,
if we win, we'll try to do the same. But enough about that. Let's give them the props in that need to be right off the bat. If you look at their stats and you look at everything that is on the website, I definitely would have to give it to Azingi for sure. Azingi has proven time and time again, if he's given a champ, he's given the kills, he will carry this team regardless of how good or bad his other teammates are. Now, if you were to ask me my opinion about how I feel about that, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. If a Zingy isn't doing well, then what happens to the other teammates? Or if a Zingy does well enough, he's definitely willing to hard carry his team if he is given a lot of peel and a lot of focus to make him or to empower him. So it's pretty much on his shoulders most of the time, at least from my experiences playing against him and from other matches that he has played, that he is the sole rock of this team. He is the one that everybody is going to look towards for the damage, for the carry, to get them out of laning phase, to get them into the mid game, to finish the game. So, like I said, I got to give it to a Zingy. So, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think anybody who looks at this team or is known, I mean, these guys have been around, they were around last season, but anybody who's looked at this team would definitely agree with you right off the bat. But I know this from experience. We scrimmed these guys a couple times before we played a regular season matchup with them. I can tell you their mid lane by no means is a slouch. The other Diamond, they're on the
Oh,
team.
yeah,
He
no
actually
doubt about that.
he actually boasts a pretty decent champion pool. He's working on his control mage pool right now, but actually has assassins that I don't think anybody else in the Ionian mid lane pool plays. And he's really proficient on the champions that he busts out. So this he knows how to play the lane, and so even if you set a Zingy behind, which we've done multiple times, whether it be in scrims or games, that they have power from the other side of in mid lane, and Grayley actually has been a huge impact. I give him a similar effectiveness early game to like what you were talking about with your jungler Holv. He is that wild card in the early game. He plays aggressive junglers, not afraid to go to the Zac if his team composition needs it.
Right.
But they're by no means a one trick pony when it comes to who their best player is and whether or not the others can contribute. So their drafts are really strong. They can be exploited at the macro level mid game. So that's something we're going to have to learn how to attack because our players aren't really necessarily on par with theirs as far as individual skills. So that's kind of the area that teams are going to have to look to take them down. But other than that, they have really good individual skill. They always get Zilla on a really strong tank. Ornn priority is really high, going to be really high in any matches they play.
Oh yeah.
So
I think Ornn is going to be one of those priority picks, regardless of which team, in
yeah,
particular Ionia, is definitely going to want to look towards Ornn or either banning it out if they don't want to deal with it, or it'll either be I can also see it being a red side pick or a red side ban right off the
yeah,
bat too.
yeah,
Definitely a
sure.
pick that nobody wants to deal with. So I'm actually, since now we're getting to a more closer, closing of talking about Ionian, if
Yeah.
you had to look at all of the teams in this division, how would you think that the ratings of the teams, and you could just be completely honest, the ratings of the team, do you think that is what it reflects all the teams? And if so, who do you see as being a top contender, assuming Helix goes to the finals? Who do you think would have a more decent chance of going up against them based on team comps or what you've seen?
I off the top of my head, I don't think any one of the three of us, and obviously when I say the three of us, I'm referring to Tempest, Spaceman Spiff, and Washed Up One Tricks. I'm even though I'm really excited to see the Washed Up One Tricks Helix
I
semifinals
am too,
because
actually, because it'll
because
give us an idea of what to expect.
yeah. So keep in mind, Helix did go 8-2. One of those losses, it was an unplayed automatic defeat because the other team wasn't able to. They weren't able to schedule the game for the last week, so they only actually lost one game that was played out during the regular season, and that was to Washed Up One Trick. So even though and Washed Up One Tricks they've been kind of weird this season. They did drop both games at the very end of the season to Reformed Cats, the fifth place team, which caused them to drop below Tempest and Space and Spiff, which made things kind of interesting right at the very
Yeah.
end. But they are still that one team that can take games off of Helix and has in the past. They won one to last season. I remember Tuba talking in his interview after we played them. They're really anxious to get
The
to play
revenge
Helix
back.
again. Yeah, they're really excited to play Team Helix again more than any other team. So I would definitely not count Washed Up One Tricks out of the semifinals. That's going to be a really fun series to watch. Hope that gets casted. And honestly, based off of this regular season, I think Gelati and Tuba and Rixie, those and Mayor, those guys, I think they have the best chance of taking down Helix. So I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on the semifinals, and we'll see what happens.
See, and I actually have to completely agree with you. I think they're one of those. I would actually give them the Dark Horse Award. I think they're
Yeah,
a team that you could say you'd be surprised if they beat them, but not really. That if
yeah,
they do knock
yeah,
out Helix out of the team, it's something like, oh wow, like that really just happened. But
yeah.
it's something that we can definitely expect. And I do think if we were to look at it real quickly, I do think Helix may potentially have one to maybe three of their top players in the roles that they're playing. I would definitely say
Hmm.
that maybe one or two of their players that are on that team definitely hold, the number one individual in that particular role. So, like you said, I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see who goes to the finals between Helix and Washed Up One Tricks, along with Spaceman Spiff and uh, Team Tempest. So I think we talked about Ionian division, which definitely is going to be hot for sure. So I think I'll
Yep.
go ahead and you know what? Since you started from the top, you know what? Let's bring it back down and let's go all the way down to the Demacia division.
All right,
Let's
Demacia,
spice things
guys.
up a bit.
All right, scroll all the way down, Shadow. Come on, do your job. Don't have a lot of work to do.
Please,
Okay.
Shadow. We're waiting for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. All right, good stuff. Well, we spent a lot of time on Ionia, and sorry if we spend a lot more time on them than we do other divisions, just because we have two people on the cast right now that are in Ionia. So a lot of opinions, a lot of knowledge to be shared in that area. But let's talk about Demacia, guys. So hopefully, we have some Demacian people watching this that can share their opinions, maybe in chat or otherwise. Um, let's talk about how things have played out. So, interestingly enough, this is our only division with a three-way tie. So, Aggressive Enchanters, Clout 7, and Mundo Licious all three ended at 5-3. Now, Strength of Schedule or Strength of Victory, sorry, and Strength of Victory is the breakdown in the LCS rulebook that suggests a point system for a tiebreaker in which games that a team beats a higher division or a higher ranked team are worth more than a team's win versus a lower division team. So let's say you have, so let's say, and I don't remember the games correctly here, but let's say Cloud 7 took down Ace Venturas twice, but ended up losing to Mundolicious. But Mundolicious beat Cloud 7, but lost to Ace Ventura. So now Mundolicious, because they beat a higher ranked team, their victories would count for more on this ethereal point system, and thus the strength of victory. Anyway, it's a long-winded explanation, but tiebreakers resulted in Aggressive Enchanters taking the top spot, the 1 seed, and then Mundolicious and Cloud 7, the head-to-head score gave that to Cloud 7. So overall seeding puts Aggressive Enchanters as the 1. Cloud 7 took the 2 seed, Mundolicious in the 3 seed, and Gags Gaming in the 4 seed. And this is really important because not to throw shade or anything, but all three of these teams want to be the one that plays Gags Gaming, just based on their regular season performance. So
Oh, of course.
the tiebreaker going in Aggressive Enchanters is a big break for them to catch. But the Cloud 7 Moon Delicious series is going to be really interesting because obviously all these teams are really close. So let's talk about, first of all, the Aggressive Enchanters versus Gags Gaming matchup. So that's the 1 seed versus the 4 seed. Let's take a look at an Aggressive Enchanters first. Awesome. Thanks, Shadow. In week 2, these two teams played, and the Enchanters actually took both games over Gags Gaming. So not really too surprising considering their seeding in playoffs. So for Aggressive Enchanters, my player to watch, not necessarily based off stats, but more champion pool and effectiveness in game is Volcron Gaming. So their top laner, his champion pool, he has pulled out the Ornn, the Set, Urgot, and Yorick. Those are the 4 champions that he mostly plays. So he plays the meta stuff, the Ornn and the Set, which arguably are going to be really high tier pick ban in draft. And then he's got he can go to the tank killers with Urgot and then the split pusher with Yorick. So he's got an interesting champion pool there. And when we talk a little bit about the Gags Gaming top lane, you might be able to put together the pieces and see why I think Volcron is going to be a key for this game. So in the jungle, Lightning, he plays Warwick, Zac, and Nunu. So ganking junglers with a little bit more of a tanky side. Mid laner, he likes to control mages. Stud Nugget plays Azir, Vigar, Malzahar. Greedy likes the Jinx and the Caitlyn. And then Autumn Gamer, he's played a lot of stuff. He's played Morgana, Soraka, Rakan, even gotten a couple of Yuumi games in there as well as a Poppy game. So when it comes to the win condition for this team, how are Aggressive Enchanters going to take this series over Gags Gaming? I do really think it does come down to the top side of the map. The top laner for Gags Gaming, likes to play Fiora and Shen, and so I think they really utilize the split push there. And so one thing aggressive enchanters are going to want to do is attack topside and neutralize that split. If they can get Volcron Gaming onto Ornn or Set, or even if he wants to match a split push with a Yorick, and they can get him on that pick and neutralize the Fiora or the Shen from Gags Gaming, then I think they're going to be able to transition that into a mid game, which they have a much better team fight composition. You've got your Zac. I expect Zac to be prioritized, if not banned in first or second phase from Lightning. So something like an Ornn, a Zac, a control mage, maybe a Veigar or a Malzahar there with a hyper carry like Jinx, and to support like maybe Morgana or Rakan. They have a really good team fight composition, and I think making sure that that top lane doesn't get behind and is able to neutralize the split push threat from Gags Gaming, I think that's a really big key to the game for aggressive enchanters. So let's talk a little bit about Gags Gaming. If we could pull them up on the stats here. The player that I have to watch for them is their ADC, GGT. Now you'll notice that this is kind of based on the stats. He's been the carry for the team this season. You'll notice him topping the team in KDA, CS per minute, of course, as the ADC. And look at the kill participation. He's been involved in over 4/5 of their kills there, and even has the second highest vision score. So, and of course, it doesn't no surprise that he holds the highest share of their gold. So this guy, we're going to want to look to him to be able to step up and carry this team. Let's talk a little bit about their champions, the champions these guys would pick, and what their draft might look like in this series. So we already talked about their top laner. I believe, if I remember correctly, I think their jungle and the top are switched as how they played. I think the Bosley Beast actually plays jungle, if I'm not mistaken, but I would have to go back and double check that. But top laner plays Fiora and Shen. Jungle plays the Warwick, so we might see that Warwick pick contested. Mid laner also plays control mages. So Slagon there plays stuff like Malzahar, Mordekaiser, Lux, and Galio. So the Mordekaiser and Galio are kind of interesting there. But then their ADC, we talked about Teak. He plays Xayah, Lucian, Aphelios, and Caitlyn. So definitely some carry potential in lane bully champion pool. And then their support plays Nautilus and Alistar. So if we're looking at win conditions or keys to the game from Gags Gaming, a lot of it, a lot of the eggs are in the basket of the bottom lane. You need to be able to protect the bottom lane side from dives. If it's something like a Zac or an Ornn were to come out from the aggressive enchanters, then the jungler, the Bosley Beast, or Dragonikent, whoever's playing jungle for this team, they need to be bottling to protect that from dives and enable the ADC early. Another thing in this is they want to be able to farm all lanes effectively. I could see this team doing a 1-3-1 here, especially if they pick the Mordekaiser and the Galio in the mid lane. So something like a Fiora or a Shen on one side, a Mordekaiser or Galio on the other side, and then placing 3 in the middle. So it's really important that they're able to farm all lanes effectively, utilize the 1-3-1. So each of these guys, we've gotten their win conditions. We've talked a little bit about keys to the game. My prediction is I'm going to give this series 2-0 to aggressive enchanters. I think they are going to win this one in the end, primarily based on the fact that their composition is much more team fight focused. And in this league, I think we see the team fight compositions far outdoing the 1-3-1 composition. So it's tough to pull off a composition that requires people in each lane farming up and staying away from each other and then grouping for objectives. That's a lot harder to pull off, and I don't think that Gags Gaming is going to be able to pull it off against a dominant team like aggressive enchanters. So I'm going to give the enchanters this series 2-0 for my prediction. So we'll see how it plays out in the end. But we have one more series to jump to in Demacia before we hop up to Noxus, and that is the 2-seed, 3-seed matchup, Clout7 and Mundolicious. So let's talk a little bit about these teams here, and I'm hoping Ace can join me for some conversation about Mundolicious because he's actually their coach. So like I said, these guys, because of the head-to-head, Clout7 took that 2-seed, and so they will be given side selection for Game 1 and Game 3. So let's jump into Mundolicious. I believe Ace had to step out for a minute. So just Ace, if you're here, and feel free to interrupt me at any time. If not, don't say anything. So my player to watch for Mundolicious right off the bat is Hyaris. So he is the team captain, and he's definitely a very vocal leader, and I think he really holds the key to the leadership for this game. And if he's having a bad game, it's kind of interesting to keep track of how the captains on each team are doing, because that really does affect the mental for teams. And so I'm looking at Hyares here. Interestingly enough, Cigar Smoker, as you can see there on the roster, the starting mid laner for the team hasn't managed to make a single game. And so they've had to get a sub every single week for them. So Hyares actually is listed there as a support, but he'll step up and play mid. I think he did that twice, or two weeks out of the 4 that they played. So we'll have to keep that in mind and see what support they get. And I'll have a lot less info on them, basically, because we don't know who their mid laner is going to be and we don't know who their support is going to be. Kind of as simple as that. So one thing to note, their top laner does play Shen and Nar, so Steve-O 7600. He played a game of Akali, played a game of Kled, but mostly he's gone back to the Shen and the Nar. And their jungler likes to play Xin Zhao, Olaf, and Amumu. So he kind of hovers. I think he got in a game of Rammus as well. So AJ able to take both the early game junglers and the tanks. And then their ADC, Uila, look at his stats there. He's got a KD of 6.2 with over 6 CS a minute. Some of those numbers are higher than Ionian ADCs. Gold share, pretty high there. And then kill participation along with Hyares top on the team. So Uila, he's a really big pick to watch. And even though my player to keep an eye on was Hyares, this bot lane I think really is going to be the turning point for this team. So wanted to throw it over to Ace to talk about. You coach these guys for the entirety of the season. So
yes, sir.
I don't have as much info as I do on the other teams because there's been some. Cigar Smoker hasn't made a single game, and so there's been a lot of subbing in and out. So talk to me about you guys' specific win conditions here for this series, and what you guys are looking to do, what identity you've built for your team.
So I will admit, in the beginning, the identity for this team was, there was no identity. It was kind of one of those, just pick whatever champion you feel comfortable with and just go with it. I think it's definitely one of those situations where you kind of just have to learn from the ground up, more so because I know I have coached AJ for a while, and I've coached Hyares also for a while too. And so it was kind of bringing them, those two individuals with another group of other individuals too. So it was kind of like meshing of ideas together and trying to come up with a compromise as far as what the identity of the team is and what they want to accomplish too. And I think something that you definitely pointed out is that with AJ in particular, he's one of those that is he's kind of like Blabber in the sense that he will go for everything possible, even though he probably shouldn't, which is good in the sense that it's something that I've tried, dialing him back a bit, because at least from my experiences have coaching players that are in the iron, bronze, silver, and even gold elos, it's one of those where it's harder to teach a person to be more aggressive than it is to teach somebody to go a little bit more passive. And the reason being is because if an individual's already passive, you just need to dial that back up a bit and they're good. And it comes with more reinforcement, and it comes with more of trying to prioritize a little bit more objective control rather than going for kills and trying to kill the enemy team as quickly and as fast as possible, or versus somebody who is more passive and is unwilling to take trades due to either confidence issues or they're not unsure of the capabilities of their champions. That tends to be a little bit harder to teach because it requires them to actually kind of like limit test their champion or limit test their abilities that they can do. And sometimes they'll overshoot it and therefore they have to go back to square one. And a good example is, let's say if they go super aggressive on a particular gank and it doesn't go well, that could really be a detriment to somebody's capabilities of what they think they can do. And therefore they'll say, well, I already tried it once before. Why am I going to do it again? Why should I even remotely try to be even close to being aggressive when passive has worked for me 5, 6, 10 out of 10 times? Sure. And so it's one of those where as something that I've taught AJ to try, or have been still teaching AJ to just slow the pace of the game, where the mistakes are going to come from you rather than from your opponents, where you can't rely on your opponents to make mistakes. You have to rely on your skills and your abilities. With that being said, I do think kind of like what you had mentioned earlier, I do think Hyares is probably the person to look for, only because he has played top lane, he has played mid lane, and he has played support. Granted, not trying to, I guess, pet the ego of the team that I'm coaching, but trying to speak from a more objective standpoint. He's proven time and time again that he's definitely the high of this team. He's willing to be put into a different lane if need be, and is willing to play ranging from tanks to carries, and it doesn't matter what champion he's on, he's willing to give it a shot. Granted, some of the champions he picks probably don't make any sense, and I have to force him to convince me that they work. But like I said, he's definitely willing to pull out champions that you probably normally wouldn't see from somebody at the level that they are currently at. And so he definitely provides a voice for the team, and so does AJ from time to time too. And I know he has also told me that that he has gotten better of relaying the information that he wants to do or what he thinks is best for the team and their win condition to go for it from there. So I think this team is definitely going to, like you said, probably going to look a little bit more towards bot side. I think Eula is a very great AD carry player. Like you said before, his KDA, his CS per minute, along with his KP is just outstanding for the division that he's in. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this bot lane can do with Eula and Hayaris, just to see how they stack up against the other teams in this division.
Yeah. Speaking of other teams, let's hop over to Clout7 and take a look at them, as they are going to be Moondalicious' opponent for the semifinals here. So top laner is their top laner is Aileron Roll. He likes to play Cho'Gath and Ornn. Jungle likes the Olaf and the Volibear. Mid laner, who according to chat, kind of bad if I remember correctly, has played a lot of Zilean this season, and also likes the Rise as well. So if you look at the top three, got a tank playing top laner, fairly aggressive ganking jungler, but actually plays tanks as well, and then a control mage. They're really good. It looks like they're really good at weathering top through mid. And then if you look at the team themselves, you can see that Vortex is actually kind of the big carry for this team. And so it seems like Clout7 is actually looking to more play through bot lane here. My player to watch here is actually their support, Sarthal. He's played a lot of Rakan, but also the Shen, the Janna, and the Morgana. So my keys to the game here for Clout7, based on the champion pool and what I know about these players, is I think they are going to want to play through bot lane, as Vortex has actually put up some pretty big numbers in that ADC role. They're going to want to optimize that bot lane matchup. So what's interesting, if you take a look at Moondalicious' ADC, Uli, he plays Caitlyn and Misfortune, and Vortex's pool of Kai'Sa, Varus, and Xayah actually struggles a little bit against the Misfortune Caitlyn, especially the Xayah. I think Vortex will try and want to pair that with the Rakan, but they have to be worried about a Misfortune Morgana answer, because that's actually a really strong matchup for that. So optimizing the bot lane matchup, like maybe a Varus Rakan or something, as long as they ban the Morgana, something like that, then we're looking pretty good. So Cloud7 is going to want to put a lot of thought into the bot lane matchup, because the Moondalicious AD carry actually does play some good ADCs into what Vortex is looking to pick. And then the last thing is river control. If they're able to get mid prio with a Zilean or a Rise shove, if Goyner's able to take control of that lane, and their jungler is able to walk down into the river, they can actually give bot lane a lot of relief by controlling that river, and give them the opportunity to be played through or to set them up for success. So I think playing through bot lane, optimizing that specific matchup, and the river control are the big keys to the game in this series for Cloud7. So
I think also that I wanted to kind of chime in a little bit too, is that I've actually have coached the mid laner before, which is Goyner, because he used to play alongside with Perseverance and also Soul Reaver too. One thing that I guess a lot of people are probably won't think is that he's actually a really good mid laner. I got to give him props. He definitely is somebody that kind of reminds me of a lot of different mid laners that are willing to put in the extra work for certain mid lane champions that you normally probably wouldn't put effort into, but he makes certain champions look like they would be A tier, S tier if given the right amount of resources, such as Zilean. I know his Zilean pick is actually very good, where he's willing to throw in the ult, obviously not to himself, but to throw in to the other carries that are on his team or individuals that are considered priority targets. And so I got to give props to Goyner too. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this team decides to circulate all of their gold and all of their resources towards mid lane also, because
Nice.
he has proven time and time again that if he is given a champion and he is given the resources necessary, he can carry a game. Because I know he has carried games before when he was on a different team as well. So I'm my dark horse specifically for this league in particular is probably gonna have to be Goiner, because I think if Goiner steps up, he definitely is a huge threat for this team already. Granted, I do think Cloud7 is definitely a top 2 team with the type of strategies and the type of comps that they do run. They're definitely a little bit more flexible than some of the other teams that are in this division. So I think I definitely have to give a shout out to Goiner for that.
Yeah. Any predictions, Ace, for this series? I think my bet lies with a 2-1 in favor of Cloud. As the more I've thought through this, I think their champion pools are a lot more solid. If Aileron Roll gets his Ornn, I think they can build a team composition that's almost unstoppable based on what Mundalicious plays. And I think the whole sub factor might throw a wrench, but you'd probably know a little bit more about that. I'm calling it probably. I'm predicting probably a 2-1 in favor of Cloud7,
Okay.
just based on the solidity of champion pool and the win conditions for Cloud7. But I do think Mundalicious has what it takes to pick up a game, or maybe 2, in your opinion.
I guess I can respect that. I can definitely give you the the ideal of their team going 2-1 against my team that I'm coaching.
Yeah.
But I think obviously I'm coaching them, so I have to, not that I have to, but I'm more than willing to step up and be for the voice for my team. I definitely do think my team, right? That'd be such a horrible thing as a coach to say, no, I don't think they're gonna no, they're not gonna win. They're gonna get to it. On a serious note, I do think this matchup is actually going to be a lot. I would hope it's going to be close and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it should.
But I do think I can see Mundalicious. I can see the team trying to figure out what strategy they want to go with and maybe struggling with one game. But they have proven time and time again that they are a team that are willing to pull out different picks. They're willing to go a more slow-oriented game, or they're definitely willing to go more fast-paced. We kind of have an idea of how to approach this particular matchup. Obviously, I won't go into too much detail, but like you said, I do think it will be kind of like a 2-1. I can't really see it being 2-0, which I'm hoping neither team deals with a 2-0. I do think it'll be 2-1, but like I said, I got to go for my team. I do think my team can 2-1 the other team, but I do think it'll be a really great match. I think all of the lanes stacked against each other. I think it's going to be definitely a fight for the to see who definitely goes into the finals.
Yeah, I for sure agree. And Lucky Maverick and I are going to be casting this game on Thursday, I believe is when it's happening. So I'll be able to jump into some more detail on.
And if you want, you can even if the picks that the team decides to go with, you're more than welcome to be like, okay, what is this coach doing? What is he? What exactly is going on through his head? I understand he likes to do, throw in really weird picks and weird comps, but come on. So, like I said, throw the whole thing to me. So, like I said, I am rooting for my team, but I definitely am wishing the best of luck to Cloud7. I think they're a great team. They definitely showcase they're willing to throw a punch and finish it. So I think it's going to be a great semifinal match.
Yeah, excited to cast it on Thursday. Well, that should wrap things up for Demacia here as we covered both playoff matches. Let's go up to Noxus. Who's taking this one away? Is that back to you, Ace?
Yeah, it is. It's actually back to me.
All right.
So I'll go ahead and take it off. Oh, all me. All right. So like you had mentioned before, this is the Noxian division with the teams having a actual, I'm pretty sure, perfect record for a team with Team Renegados at 10-0. Stars United Esports 6-4, Bronze Age 6-4, and Blood Oath Kings 4-6. For the Stars United and Bronze 5H, I think that was already determined who the second seed and the third seed was, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Of course, Shadow steps in to make sure everyone knows that Bronze 5H is the second seed. Thank you, Shadow.
Whether it happened legitimately or not, we don't know. But
we don't know.
Shadow's
but
declared it to be so, and therefore it is so.
Exactly. So unfortunately, I do have to take word of Shadow. So, but I think I'm going to start from the bottom up, actually. I think Blood Oath Kings going 4-6. Definitely a record that gets him into the playoffs. Obviously, they have struggled through the season to try to pick up wins. If you look at their team overall, I do think trying not to spend too much time, since we've kind of like have drifted off a little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit. So I'm going to try to condense it on my part, which is probably due to my part. I think the person to look for in this one, I probably would have to give it to Kazoo, only because since Kazoo has worked with Mundolicious, shout out to Kazoo for helping my team be the sub whenever he has been needed. Definitely got to give him props. Kazoo has shown that, and I have personally have coached him too, tried to coach him, giving lessons and whatnot in mid lane. Definitely has stepped up to the plate when he needs to be. He has a really great CS per minute. His KP is no slouch either. His vision scores, pretty decent for a mid laner, as most mid laners kind of, just try to go for kills and not try to go for the whole vision score thing. So, but I got to give props to Kazoo. He has brought out picks out for him. He has improved since that last time that I've been giving him coaching advice and how to attack the mid lane. What I do like is that he actually tends to draw out bans for himself. I think I've seen nearly every game that he has played, he has drawn out a Katarina ban, which is out of left field, I think, which I think is really interesting. And if I'm mistaken, definitely a shot caller too. When he was playing with Mundolicious, I remember he kind of wanted to talk to me about it. He's like, hey, is it okay if I give, shot calling stuff? And it's, you can talk to the team. If you want to provide any of that, go for it. I don't want to limit a player on what they can provide for the team. So, and it's interesting too, because he's not willing to take all of the resources for himself. He's willing to roam and assist other leads, hence why his KP is, above 60%. He has shown actually different picks, such as throwing a Swain in mid lane, and he popped off on it during a match when he was with Mundolicious in the Demacia division. So like I said, I do think it's Blood of Kings is definitely playing an uphill battle. They're a team that definitely has to prove that, they do belong in the playoffs and they do belong being in the semis and, trying to reach for that finals match. So I know they definitely have their work, cut out for them, but I'm hoping Blood Oath Kings definitely take Kazoo a little bit more serious, in the sense that they kind of give him, which I'm not sure how their dynamics are in their team, but I'm hoping that they give Kazoo a little bit more, communication, agency, and kind of give him a little bit more take on the roles of communication as far as how the game should be dictated, because he definitely has showcased and has shown me that he is willing to learn and is willing to assist other lanes, even if he is ahead in his lane and is already pushing his lead. So like I said, I really do hope that they kind of utilize him, because I do think he will be the cornerstone for this team to be successful, whether they go 2-1 or they go 2-0.
I like his champion pool. Plays the Rise, plays the Casio. Definitely some hyper carries in there. In their matchup versus Renegatas, which is who they're going to be playing in playoffs. They actually he played the Malzahar in game 1 against the Rumble, and then Rise into Marcana. So I do think he will be given the tools to carry, at least from the mid lane. I don't think he'll be put in any awkward situations in mid lane. Hopefully he's able to get the champs that he wants to, and I think he'll be able to make an impact in mid lane. Whether he can translate to the rest of the map, we'll see. But I have high hopes for him being able to do Kazoo things.
That's what I'm hoping for too. And I think going on to the third seed, which is Stars United Esports Club, very interesting team. I definitely know a lot of these individuals. Played with them before, playing in normal matches, so they're all a great group of individuals. I really like the way that they're also flexible in their champ pool as well. And I think it was a little hard for me to kind of decide who would be the it factor or who would be the person to look for. So I kind of had to toss it up in between these two, between Soul Links and Soul Reaver, only because I have coached Soul Reaver before. I think he's a great, versatile jungler. He has provided great communication on his side. I definitely have a lot of in-person experience with him, playing with him and theory crafting in jungle and how certain jungle routes should be prioritized. And I think his KP is not his KP technically doesn't reflect that per se as far as him jungling, but I do see him either trying to counter jungle or provide counter vision onto the enemy side. So he definitely is willing to provide that extra tool for his team at the sacrifice of his own stats, which tells me that he doesn't play necessarily for the stats, he plays for his team, and he's always willing to make the sacrifices when need be. But dialing back a little bit, Lynx is actually a very great mid laner. I've seen him play a couple times, played with him, and I've seen obviously my team play against him. Definitely, my team has played against him before in during scrimmages and different types of matchups and stuff with my players subbing in for other teams. And his KP for mid laner is very high. It's almost at 70%, which you normally don't necessarily see it with individuals at this ranking at this level. But him being, the ranking of the goal 2, you definitely would expect that he kind of understands that he kind of already has at least a minimal foundation of laning, and therefore transitioning out towards macro is where he tries to focus on. And I think his champ really brings out a kind of spicy taste. I think his Aurelion Soul is really good, and I think I would actually even give him props where I honestly think his Aurelion Soul is better than mine, and that's because I used to play Aurelion Soul decent amount, to be, decent. But I think, like I said, kind of like Kazoo, I can actually expect teams that will be going up against him will draw out bans for Lynx himself, because like I said, his Aurelion Soul is just really, really good. I remember I was watching and I was like, wow, this is actually, so good. So like I said, it's really a toss-up for this team, because I've heard their communications before, with everybody ranging from the top side to their support. They definitely have a lot of respect for each other, and they actually give communications for everybody, which I think not all teams do, where every voice is heard. And I know this because I've been in their comms before, and have listened to their ideas of how they want to play the game, where they take communication from their support, from their AD carry, depending on who is playing AD carry, because I know they have struggled getting a sub for their team. But they also take the ideas from their mid laner, their jungle. And so this team is definitely going to have... I don't think this team is in the same rut as Blood Oath Kings. I do think Stars United is I actually would have to give them the dark horse on this one. I do like saying that a lot. I do think they are the surprise factor for this team.
Yeah.
Because if Lynx is on or whether Reaver is on, they definitely command a lot of respect in their matches. So I'm definitely rooting for them. I know them personally. I think they're a great group of individuals. I do think they're very good too. I do think if they do make it to the finals, sorry, Shadow, if they do go and play against Team Renegadas, I do think it will be a spicy matchup in the finals.
Yeah, they got second place last season, so they still got a chip on their shoulder.
Time and time again that they can do it.
They're out to attack. They want that number one spot. Who we got next?
So we got next, of course, Shadow had said it out earlier. It's 5H. Bronze 5H.
Snore.
Right, Snore. I mean, think about it. My former team captain, I guess, I don't know if I'd still call him a team captain now, Karen Franz, knows these guys very, very well too. And this is not a shout out to Karen Franz, just FYI. But please. Bronze 5H is definitely this team. I gotta give them credit. To me, I think ever since like season 1, season 0, this was the team that I actually I can't believe I'm actually giving them props. Damn it, Shadow. I gotta give them props. This is the team that I actually would actually talk about to other teams that I would coach about, team that is very good at fighting it with a team fighting comp. This is the team that to me, it looks like they have a singular voice or a singular mind on what they want to do, and they execute it. And so this is the team that I actually use as an example for teams and individuals who I have had the honor and pleasure of working with, to look at this team and showcase, okay, this is how they transition coming from the early game to mid game to late game, where they play a solid foundation of team fighting. I know this season they probably have struggled a little bit more than I was actually expecting to. I think maybe a lot of it has to do with the fact that they kind of jumped into a division, and so therefore the mistakes that they would do in the other division below them, they were never exploited. And so now that their weaknesses are being exploited, or the mistakes that they make tend to be utilized by other enemy teams. And I think this is where Bronze 5 Age definitely has to sit down and say, okay, the normal strategies that we would do don't necessarily work at this moment. So therefore, we have to change up how we want to tackle the laning phase, how we want to tackle ganking at 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, or when we want to go for Rift Herald. So I think for this team, the Dark Horse, obviously, I got to go with the Prophet. I think he's an outstanding AD carry. I think he has provided a high CS differential. I think his MVP is the highest. His goal per minute, I think, is one of the best in the league as well. Hitting almost 500, which is outstanding. That's amazing. I think the Prophet himself, I think, has gotten a lot of accolades, such as being All-Star First Team, Demacia winner back in Season 0, and then he was also Noxian Season 1 winner. So this individual is going to be the staple pick. He's kind of like the Azingi of for this division, for this team, but more so where if he does great and he does amazing, that you could see this team being successful. You can see this team going to the finals. That I think if you were to tell me that, oh, well, Bronze 5 Age is going to the finals, I would tell you, you know what, that sounds about right. I can see that, assuming that they clean up their little mishaps. I know that they themselves like to get into little fiestas and kind of try to go for too much, and it sometimes backfires, but that's okay. You kind of have to limit test what your team can do and what your comp can do in order to figure out, this is what we can do, this is what we cannot do. So I think this is actually the match I'm most looking forward to in this division. I think Bronze 5 Age and Stars United, they play similarly, but the win conditions are a little bit more different, where I think personally, from what I've seen, I think the win condition for Stars United is going to be through the mid and jungle synergy. But I think for Bronze 5 Age, I think it's going to be the bot lane for sure. So I think, and that's where I think it's interesting, because what happens, Stars United gets a huge lead in mid lane, but they also don't get a lead on their bot side. You know, who is the one that can, carry out for the match and for the win going into the finals between these two teams. So like I said, I do think this is actually a really exciting division. I'm really curious to see who's going to be in the finals between this, but I do think between Team Renegatus and Blood Oath Kings, I do see Team Renegatus probably 2-0ing, maybe 2-1 against Blood Oath Kings, if I'm being honest. But I really do, like I said, I'm really pulling for Kazoo. Really great player. So I hope that they definitely don't go 2-0 against them, or I even hope they take a game or maybe even make it to the finals. That would be wonderful. That'd be awesome. But between Stars United and Bronze 5 Age, oh man, if you had to tell me who I had to pick, I probably would choose Death, only because I know Shadow is listening and Karen Franz is listening probably, or he will to this. But you know what? I like making Karen Franz angry. So I'm going to go with Stars United 2-1.
Nice. Okay. Yeah,
and this is a shout out to Bronze 5 Age. I love you guys. You guys are awesome too. But I'm only doing this to piss off Karen. So
that's right. At 50 kills a game, 50 kills a team per game, going to 3 games. I think we're looking around 300 kills for this series. Would you say that's a pretty accurate estimate?
Not only do I say that as being an accurate estimate, I believe it should be a necessity for this.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I feel like I'm underselling it a little bit. I think we can push 450, but
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else, Noxus, talk about?
Ooh, probably not. Congratulations to Team Renegatus for being 10-0 in this division. I know that's regardless of whatever division you're in. I think going 10-0 speaks volume about your team. Definitely showcases that you probably don't have that many mistakes to work with, but it does showcase that you are a huge threat in your own division. So I am curious to see who is going to be in the finals. Like I said, I do think Renegatus will probably 2-1 Blood Oath Kings, if I'm being honest. And then I would like to see who is going to be the one to take on the team between Team Renegatus and, who knows, maybe Blood Oath Kings.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue our trend of hopping erratically around. So let's jump up to Piltover, and I believe we'll get to welcome our third caster, who has got an outstanding mic.
Woo!
Where is he?
Hello, everybody. I'm here.
Message us in the chat if you can't hear Ansem, by the way.
Oh, they can't hear me?
All right, saying no messages, I can assume that he has an outstanding mic and is coming through
Woo!
crystal. So take it
That's
away,
all we
Ansem.
need to hear.
Hello, everybody.
Let's talk about Piltover, Ansem. What do you got?
All right, so
Any good teams in there?
is my division. The only good team was probably KP because they were the most consistent team out of any team in Piltover. They went 1-1 in every single match they played.
Consistency is key to success.
Yep. And consistently, KP has also been the team to make it to the finals of whatever division that they have been a part of, whether it be Shurima or Piltover or Noxious way back for those old kids back in season 0. So they will be going against Shien Samurais, which is my team. So the people to watch in that match in particular is specifically the mid lane matchup between Mansferg and Delta Terra. The reason for that is because Mansferg is the core of Kamikaze Penguins. If Mansferg is on point, then he may be able to just run over a game. But he's only one person, so he's like Faker back in season 8, was it? Yeah, season 8, where like he is still like a great player, but the rest of his team is not up to the same tier. So it'll be up to Mansferg to really push everybody through to the finals once again. Whereas for Shien Samurais, he has effectively upgraded his top laner from being able to play only Vladimir to playing only Akali. He has upgraded his jungler in more so just changing out whether being like a tank initiator versus Yankos, who is the first blood king of every game. Like he is involved with every first blood pretty much in all of our games. And then Slattery for Shien Samurais. Yes, I'm talking about my team, but that's because it is my team. Slattery, he actually joined 2 days before the season began. So he has been pushing himself to be able to catch up with everybody else because he understands he was not performing that great when he first started, but he has been pushing himself to learn and get better so that way when we do get to playoffs, he gets to just smash everybody in lane. Now, KP, they have also had the issue of their original support in Beauty. She actually had to leave, so they moved Beast, their original AD carry, to support, and they got a new AD carry in Sengis. Why do people got to make such hard pronouncing names? Sengisia, I guess. If anybody wants to chime in with pronunciations or anything, go ahead and let me know. So I'm not sure to the fullest extent how they have changed as a team because they, as consistently as they have been, stuck to being a 1-1 team with every match, even against even against Anarchy Blue, whose one win is from KP. So consistency will be their part. So guessing a 1-1, but we'll have to see what game 3 will have to bring. So it's not going to 5 games. I can already tell you that, which is great. Then you have in your other matchup, sorry, Ravenous Kumquats and this team. Now, Ravenous Kumquats has been around since Season 0. They have shuffled around a bunch of their players since then, but they have a pretty solid lineup. They actually have the jungler that I had last season in Tempest, then Bonini. I believe that they are running a 6-man roster, but one of their players has just not been able to participate in Demonizer in most of their matches. So they have been using Cole Kane as their sub AD carry. I still believe that it would be up to Mansford to bring the team home, as he is their core carry for their team. CCK Roscoe, he plays a lot of melee bruisers, like the Ilaoi and Kleds, and then Tempest will be playing the Engage. With how they have swapped around their bottom parts of the map, I'm not sure what to fully expect from the team for their bottom lane play, because the only one that has been consistently playing has been Cole Kane as the AD carry, and his stats aren't really much to write home about for as a carry, but more as a support, they would be better. Now, for this team, this was one of the only games that we actually lost to. Again, we lost one game to KP. As per Destiny, they will go 1-1. But against this team, we actually, when we played them, we played a very trolly kind of a comp in game 2. But their AD carry actually is pretty decent. I'm not too sure about the support, because, you know, we're having this sort of banter, but I don't know why. The I would have to say for their matchup, it would actually be the difference in AD carries in bottom, in particularly Capitan Snake versus probably Cole Kane as the AD carry, because Capitan will be looking more to carry the game, whereas from my experience, Cole Kane is looking to make sure he's relevant towards the end of the game. Unfortunately, this is a sub 30-minute division where most of the victories come just around 27, 28 minutes. So I think it'll probably go to this team, but Ravenous Kumquats can get a really good level 1 start, as this team has been a little inconsistent with their level 1 strategies. Sometimes they choose to not invade, and they get invaded upon and they weren't prepared for it, or they'd attempted to invade and they got 5-for-0 aced. Go look at that. Go look it up. So overall, I think what we're looking at is a 3-game series for both matchups, where Xian Samurais versus KP, you're looking at the mid lane difference. Can Mansford carry against 4 other players? And for this team versus Ravenous Kumquats, can Capitan carry early compared to Ravenous Kumquats carrying later, with more utility, or just less carry, more support for mega average.
Cool. Now that you're all warmed up, you want to take us right into Freljord, and then we'll close things out with Shurima. How's that sound?
All right, I can keep talking, sure. All right,
Awesome.
so
That's the spirit.
yeah, so these are 2 of the divisions that actually didn't have any tiebreakers, which I personally am very proud of. Thank you guys for not making it that difficult for figuring out who goes what seed. In Freljord, you actually have the undefeated Dirty Cheese. That'll be Amos' team. While their mid laner is actually pretty good on champions like Irelia and Oriana, their top lane leaves much to be desired. He kind of just needs to play and farm just a little bit better. Dirty
Also,
Band-Aids, while he is Platinum 4 currently, he is a little bit better than that, but I wouldn't say much. Maybe Platinum 3 at best. He is just shy of that 100 kill threshold of by only 4 kills. He currently has 96, but his support, Saxman Rios, Saxman, I guess. He has 143 assists, which is pretty impressive, I'll admit. But Dirty Band-Aids being the star of the show, he has 4 of the 8 MVP points that the team has as a potential. For their competition, they will actually be going against the Gold Salamanders. Let me see if not. All right, so in the Gold Salamanders, we have an older player in Daka Driller returning, who will be the jungler. He hasn't had that good of a season in terms of choosing not to die that often, but everybody else has been doing
Oof.
a lot good. Yeah, he's a little up there with his death count. May or may not have something to do for his team score lines. I'm not sure why Fat Honey Badger. Could I have a stats check on why Honey Badger only has a few games? It looks like.
Yeah, can we page the stats guy? He seems to
Yes.
not be able to know how to do stats.
Yeah, can Mr. Stats guy look at that, please? Uh, Not really much to say, unfortunately, because I don't have full information. Stats guy sucks. I should go and yell at him later.
You'll throw out your voice.
I should what?
Your voice will throw out if you do that.
Oh, okay. Alright, I won't go and yell at the stats guy then. So we'll go on to the other matchup then in Sentinels versus SEAL Team 6. So Sentinels is probably the closest team to being able to take out the Dirty Cheese. They actually have scrimmed against them multiple times. They just need to draft a little bit better going against them next time. For Sentinels, their AD carry, in my opinion, is actually really impressive. He's actually subbed against my team in the Piltover division a couple of times, and he has made it more difficult for us to actually win our games. But their mid laner, again, just like the Dirty Cheese, he leaves much to be desired. I believe his top champions are like Malzahar and Syndra, which definitely put a lot of teams at a detriment for the first few weeks due to the Syndra bug that we had, where she could effectively cancel teleports by getting a W off. Rest in peace. And then we have SEAL Team 6, who Skippy is for you. He has been around for quite a while, and he actually made a team with a bunch of his friends, if I remember correctly. He is their carry for the team, so in the match for Sentinels versus SEAL Team 6, I would definitely have to say that it would be the AD carry difference and how each of them play around their stars in their AD carry role. But back to the Gold Salamanders and Dirty Cheese once again. It would probably be a difference between the mid laners, as I personally do know. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It would probably be the difference in the mid laner. Minor threat. He is a very good mid laner. He knows how to team fight, but he doesn't know how to macro. So while I did give some grief to the top laner for the Dirty Cheese, it would have to go to the top laner's macro decisions more. Again, Fat Honey Badger, I don't have much stats on you, so I can't make a decision whether or not you're actually that good or not. But the Epi champion does have more kills than than Minor Threat, but Minor Threat clearly outclasses him in the support. But so what I'm thinking is that the Dirty Cheese will probably end up going 2-0, unfortunately, just because looking at the stats and how dominant they have been all season, Honey Badger has only played in 2 games. Aw, well, that's a shame for him. So yes, due to stat checking, I would have to give it to the Dirty Cheese in a 2-0 fashion over the Gold Salamanders. Sentinels versus SEAL Team 6 will go to Game 3, and it'll be up to the macro decisions from either Skippy is for you or the AMO being able to, or sorry, not AMO, Scattercat being able to out macro.
Out macro, that would require one of our tribunal members to have a brain.
Well,
Oof.
I didn't say that, but okay.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, if you're finished wrapping up the Freljord division here for us, which actually I spoke. Cool to see that. I didn't know that the Dirty Cheese also had an undefeated record. I thought Renegados was the only team, but yeah, 18-0 combined. That's awesome. Go those guys. So let us wrap things up with. We have not talked about the Shuriman division yet, so let's attack that one. We have 4 teams making it to playoffs out of the 5. Not doing a gauntlet style playoffs this time, despite there being only 5 teams. So just one team wasn't able to make the cut and get into playoffs. But of the 4 teams, we have Team Billy coming in as the 1 seed. Cloud 10 is the 2 seed. Dandelion Knights is the 3 seed. And Fiesta Fathers grab the 4 seed. So no weird tiebreakers or anything like that. But some cool matchups that we have here. So I first want to talk about if we could go to Team Billy first of all, because got to start with number 1 here. They ended the season 7-1. Their only loss coming at the hands of Cloud 10, the 2 seed. An interesting 1-1 series there. So this time they're going to be playing Fiesta Fathers. The first time these guys met up during the regular season, Team Billy did 2-0 the Fiesta Fathers, but that was week 1. So obviously a recency bias kind of has to be applied here, and you can't take. It's hard to take more stock in the games that happened earlier on in the season because teams are still getting used to each other, and comms are being developed, and champion pools are being worked, and teams are getting better. So hard to take game. Kind of got to take those week 1 games with a grain of salt, but overall, Team Billy do look to be the stronger team with only that 1 loss. So player to watch for me, I am Stro, their jungler. If you know anything about Team Billy, you know that this guy sets the tempo for the early game. He makes the calls as to which lane they're going to be focusing with his play, and he often is the initiator and enabler for the fights. If you can look at his stats right there, his KDA, along with Joe Killera there in the bot lane, is over 5, which is outstanding. 1 assist shy of that 100 mark. But where I really want to look here is the kill participation, whereas his teammates are around low to mid 40s and 50s. He has a 70.3 kill percentage, and then I think that just speaks to the impact that he has on this team. Even is earning more gold than his AD carry. So takes a lot of the kills, but is able to back it up with his play, and has been leading this team to a 7-1 start. So he's my player to watch for this series, as his jungle impact is going to be hard to deny. So picks to watch for in this series: top laner, the Illuminati 17. His pool is he's on top of his champion pool. Got a great handle on the Ornn, the Mordekaiser, and the Set, which are arguably the top 3 meta top laners. So if you see top laner who can play those champions, you know that team is going to be positioned for a really good draft. So jungler likes to play, that's I am Stro. He plays the Gragas, the Rek'Sai, the Kindred, and the Elise. You'll notice he really likes those early game jungles, likes to set the tempo. Gragas is often paired with Yasuo mid from iGlitch E. If he doesn't get his Yasuo, he'll go to the Veigar. So some teams have tried to break up the Yasuo Gragas. You'll see the mid laner then go probably to the Veigar. Joe Killera boasts over 1 million mastery points on Jinx, I believe. So he'll go to the Jhin, and he has a couple other picks that he'll take if the Jinx is banned. But he usually grabs it when it's left up and is very lethal on that champion. Death Adder's played support, I think 4 out of the 5 weeks, or I guess 3 out of the 4 since he only played 4 matches. And their sub, Aoka, played the other game. So Death Adder plays like Braum, Leona, Nautilus, Alistar. He'll play tanky engage supports, and Ayoko will play stuff like Nami and Soraka. So immediately win conditions for these guys, the mid jungle synergy, really important. In this meta, guys, right now, mid priority is so huge because ever since they buffed the Rift Herald, taking either starting with dragons or Rift Herald, either one is a very viable strat. In fact, some teams will just handshake and trade those objectives, but either one of those can be a viable option in the early game. And it's just kind of what does your comp want to do? That's where you decide which one you're going to prioritize. So that's why, because mid lane can roam to either one and can set up pressure at either objective, that's why mid lane prio is so important in this meta, guys. So having a jungler like I am Stro control the pace of the game early, mid jungler synergy is really important for Team Billy. And I know because we've scrimmed against their team, if they don't have mid jungler synergy, then it's really hard for their team to actually initiate or have any agency in the game. So conditions is established, that mid jungler synergy. I want to see I am Stro in the river, making plays, forcing the enemy mid back at his turret, so that iGlitchy has presence in that lane and is able to roam to objectives first. And of course, the lasting effect of mid jungle synergy or priority is that you're able to translate that into side lane pressure. If you can get the advantage mid lane, take that turret, shift over to the objectives, you can actually impact the side lanes. So those are the keys to the game for Team Billy. Their opponent is going to be Fiesta Fathers, the 4 seed coming into this. So let's go ahead and take a look at their stats here. They actually, I think in all my research, I'd never seen a team pick the kinds of champions and put them in the kinds of roles that Fiesta Father does. They are true to their name and that they play every game like it was their last. So if you think of double jungle strategies, really weird picks, shifting roles around. I think their bench player, ZZ Dog, has played as many games as their regular players. He always finds his way into matches. I think Strom has been out for a couple of matches, so ZZ Dog usually takes that jungle role, but also plays support. So Cheese Blaze, he's kind of a unique top laner, has his own pool. He likes the Urgot and the Fiora, but has also played the Ornn, which I think is really important with Ornn priority this series. Guys, Ornn is first pickable, blue side first pick. You have to ban it red side if you're worried about the opponent taking that, because recent buffs to tank items mean that he is absolutely busted right now. Jungler, that's Strom. He plays the Echo and the Olaf, and actually, coincidentally enough, ZZ Dog played the Echo and the Olaf when he subbed in for jungle. Nicky Might really likes his Zillion, so teams have taken that away from it, but if you leave it up, he's going to go onto that Zillion there. Frostbite, he's my player to watch for this series. You can see his stats there. He has a lot of death, but he backs it up with kills and assists. You can see the kills that he's gotten. Aside from their sub player ZZ Dog, he's head and shoulders above the rest of the team, and his kill participation percentage is higher than everybody on his team. So he's my player to watch. If he doesn't go too ham, doesn't compromise his positioning, if he's able to tone back the Fiesta a little bit, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this game and actually stand toe to toe, if not exceed the ADC from Team Billy. So most likely it's not going to come down to a 2v2 lane. It's going to be more about team fighting, since both these teams like to focus away from the bot lane. Frostbite's my player to watch. He likes his Tristana, the Jhin. He's known for his Jhin. He has picked up the Ezreal, which is actually rising in priority right now. So we'll keep an eye on him for that support. Whether that's ZZ Dog or Wheat Justin or whoever, he plays a very similar pool to Death Adder, so we might see the Braum and the Nautilus and the Leona being traded between those two supports, so keep an eye on that for draft. Win condition for Fiesta Fathers, I'm looking at their keys to the game. They need to be able to absorb mid. So we talked about mid jungle pressure. They need to be able to absorb that, farm a turret, wave clear. Zillion's an outstanding pick. I expect Team Billy to ban that. It's a really good neutralizer to mid jungle pressure, and I think Fiesta Fathers are going to want to attack the side lanes if they're going to take this game. Maybe get Cheese Blaze's Fiora ahead if they can enable a split push. Break up, spread Team Billy out so they aren't grouped around mid jungle where they're so strong. So my prediction for this series is going to be a 2-0 for Team Billy. I think they have the tools to take this series pretty easily. Fiesta Fathers, really, if any team could throw a wrench into a team as strong as Team Billy, I think it is Fiesta Fathers, but I think they're quite inconsistent. The Fiesta style, I think that can get chewed up and spit out by Team Billy. I think they'll be able to take control of this series and take the 2-0. So by no means are Fiesta Fathers out of this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to take a game, but I think if Team Billy's on form and are able to execute their win conditions and get a good draft I think their champion pools are a little bit better at this point in time, they'll be able to take this series. Let's jump down to our other matchup, Cloud 10 versus the Dandelion Knights. So we actually had the privilege of seeing these two teams play very recently. They played their Week 4 match. We'll start with Cloud 10 if you want to pull them up, Shadow. We'll talk about them first. But in Week 4, they win 1-1. So kind of a little preview of what we're going to see with these guys. Know it's going to be a close series, very even across the board. Cloud 10 looked to be kind of the same strength as Team Billy in the Shuriman division, but unfortunately they did drop a game to Dandelion Knights and also coincidentally dropped a game to Fiesta Fathers. So ended the season 5-3. Dandelion Knights rounded it out at 4-4. So Cloud 10, run down their roster here real quick. Their top laner plays a lot of champions. Dragon's AK-47 there likes the Alawi a lot. He's played the Ornn, the Rumble, the Darius, the Kled, so more of a bruiser style player. The Unforgiven, Jarvan, and the Zac are big picks for him. So for look to him to be on the engage for the team. Their mid laner. Want to talk about Potato Ari? He is the my pick to watch here for the series. Specifically, the LeBlanc pick. I really like that's in the meta right now. We see control mages Syndra, we see Orianna, Cassio really rising up in priority, especially in pro play. The LeBlanc is a great answer for the laning phase. If you compare that with a strong early game jungle, like maybe the Jarvan from the Unforgiven, you can actually establish some pretty good mid jungle priority and be able to do some good things in the river. They're 3-0 when Potato Ari plays the LeBlanc, so I think that's a really good strong pick for them. He also plays Syndra and Zoe, so aggressive early game mid laners. Well, like what I like to see in the mid lane right now when mid lane prio is so important. ADC, that's Savori. He plays Aphelios, Misfortune, Senna, Caitlyn, some really good meta ADCs. So I imagine they'll want to get some power picks. Maybe if it's early picking the MF, the Aphelios. Not sure if he has high priority as the MF right now, but they'll want to power pick their draft for sure. All these guys play the metas. Top plays Ornn. Jungle plays Jarvan, Zac. There's a lot of really good champions from Cloud 10. So I think they can basically approach the draft with a power pick mentality where they just try and get as many strong picks as possible and then work their team fight. I forgot to mention a Spanish teacher plays some unique supports. I actually played a game of Zac support. So if they lock in Zac early in the draft, you actually don't technically know where that's going. That could be a Spanish teacher's pick, but he does like his bard. So see if he can roam and affect the map, help that mid and jungle establish priority there and transition that into objectives. So win condition, keys to the game for Cloud 10. I'm looking at power picking the draft. I'm looking at playing through mid priority, some basic stuff that we talked about with some other teams. I think Cloud 10 is a really well-rounded comp that can actually play the way League of Legends is supposed to be played right now correctly. These guys all have the champion pools to do it. And so I think Cloud 10 is looking really strong in this series. Their opponents are going to be the Dandelion Knights, who have been around since season 0. So we've gotten to see them for a while here. Their picks go to the Dandelion Knights. Cameron Beats, their top laner, plays quite a lot of champions. I think he's only had one champion that he's played twice. His champion pool has been really diverse, and that's a lot of that is because of their mid laner. Ystariel actually plays more ADCs in mid. If you guys know anything about Ystariel, he plays stuff like Quinn, Lucian, Kai'Sa in the mid lane, and so
Jinx as well.
Yeah, Jinx. And so if you pick an ADC in mid, you kind of got to round that out with an AP top laner. AP tops aren't quite as strong with Set and Ornn being high priority and Darius, but Cameron Beats can also play the Mordekaiser, so the Kennen, the Vladimir, so he can round the comp out with his share of AP tops to match Ystariel's ADCs. His Quinn pick is really good. Look to see if he can establish mid lane priority. So it's gonna be a battle of the mid laners here. I'm excited to see like a LeBlanc Quinn matchup here or something. Buff Draven, no surprise that he's really good on the Draven, so I imagine that'll be banned if they let him pick it. They better have a counter there. And then Notagro likes the Senna and the Soraka primarily. So win conditions here for Dandelion Knights into Cloud 10's draft. They're likely going to want to utilize the Trundle. I mentioned that I might have mentioned that Mystic Wave plays I might have skipped over him, but he plays Ornn, Warwick, and Trundle. So even though Cameron Beats has not played the Ornn, if they do pick it, it could go to Mystic Wave. So they might be able to steal that OP pick for the jungle. So look for him to play the Ornn or the Trundle, maybe into Cloud 10 Zac jungle. So manipulating the draft to their advantage. I think they're going to want to early pick the bot lane. they pick some high priority ADC and support, and then they were going to want to round the draft out with some later pick mid and top, just because of how volatile the draft is on their side with the AD mids and the AP tops and the counter pick jungles. So draft is something that the Dandelion Knights are really going to want to focus on to take this series, because it's really straightforward from C10 what they're going to try and do. But TDK, they're going to have to really manipulate the draft to get the picks they want. So my prediction here, Cloud10 is going to take this 2-1 is what I'm thinking. I think their compositions that they can build with the champion pools they have are just going to be really, really solid. And I hope the Dandelion Knights don't have to scramble to match it, but I think they might have to in this series. So I think Cloud10, the solidity of their composition and the win conditions that they've been playing towards this season, I think they're going to be able to take it 2-1. Well, that wraps up Shurima here. We got some exciting matches to cover there, as well as all of our other divisions. Anything else to add, Ansem and Ultimate Ace, before we round out this episode? Hour and a half long. I thought this was going to be a lot less than that, but been a lot of fun.
I think for me, I think you pretty much covered. I think all of us.
Yeah.
We wanted to say about each of the teams coming in. I think a lot of the number one seeds, I think, at least in my personal opinion, I think a lot of the number one seeds, I think they're definitely strong. I think they're definitely the strongest in each of their own rights.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't think there's any single number one team in any of the divisions that we would even remotely consider, well, maybe they're not really the strongest team in this division. I do think each and every one of them, I think, is definitely a little bit of a step above all the rest of them. It just depends on if they're on and if their opponents that they do play against is going to be willing to step up or actually change or force them to cater to a different style that they're probably not used to.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that is that a lot of the second, third, and fourth place teams we've highlighted, we've talked about the fact that almost all of them have X factors or dark horses, like you like to call it, or wild card players that can take a shot at these first place teams. So while I definitely do agree with you, none of these first place teams we're looking at and thinking, did they really deserve first place, or did they get a lucky regular season? No, I think they all for sure deserved it, but for sure, these third and fourth place teams definitely have. A lot of these teams have good wild card options, some good dark horses, some options, champions, ways to be able to take down these top teams. So I think we're having interesting playoffs. By no means is it going to be some kind of one and done. Everything goes as predicted. I think there's definitely formula here for some upsets.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, yeah,
right.
Yes. An oldie buddy goodie on the meme, but yes, very true. Yes, there's definitely a chance for a lot of these. I think, most of the time that we spent here is highlighting ways that some of these lower teams can take down the upper teams. So, yeah. Anything else we want to cover, or I think we've exhausted it here with our playoff information. I hope you guys, any of those who've been watching, were able to, well, first of all, learn about some of the other divisions and who's all playing and what everything's looking like. Because I know for sure, if I didn't do my research, I'd be kind of in the dark as to what some of the other divisions that I didn't play in were doing. So hope you guys learned a little bit about some of the other players in our league, and hope that the information that we provide here will be interesting enough to where you'll want to tune in and check out those games, as many of them as we can get casted, of course. So, yeah. Anything else from you guys, or good to call it here?
I think we're good enough to call it here.
All right. Well, man, thanks, Shadow, for stream hosting. Thanks, Ammo and Ultimate Ace, for your thoughts here, and thank you guys for tuning in. So, be sure to join us. I think our first match. I don't know if I have this. I don't have the schedule pulled up right now. I know we have a match on Thursday, and it's a Demacian one. But we might have one before that. But yeah, playoff matches are starting to get casted across the board, so tune in later this week and early next week for as much action as we can throw. And if you are a caster, or want to cast, or have casted before, please stay tuned to the Streamers and Casters channel, as Shadow will be, in very short time starting to frantically try and gather some recruits to cast and stream those games. So for now, I'll catch you guys later. And tune in later in the week for some awesome playoff action.